All right, what else were we talking about, folks? We were talking about some important shit, and I forgot about it. God damn, we got a lot of Twitter messages coming in this bitch. That Mark McGuire thing, that thing is hilarious. Mark McGuire is finally coming out and saying, "Oh, that's what we were talking about. We're talking about people that are hooked on pain pills."
Right.
You know that it's a when dudes get hooked on pain pills. Like I said, I know a guy who's a very smart guy. He was an IT guy, went to college, really avid reader, not a fuck up, has a real problem, and that's just what it is, man. Dudes get injured, something happens to you, and it chemically bonds with your body. I mean, it's really incredible what addiction is. You know, addiction is your body is somehow or another linked to something that's really terrible for it, and it needs that something. Like it's almost like heroin and crystal meth and stuff like that really locks a hold of your body. It's almost like they're parasites. It's almost like the drug itself has a consciousness, and the drug itself is gonna make you do it as much as you can and rob you of life. You know, I mean, that's one way to look at like horrible substances. That's why when people talk about drugs, you know, and they like to lump all drugs in together, that's so stupid. Because marijuana and mushrooms and psychedelic drugs, if done correctly, can be very beneficial. And when they're over, you don't feel any repercussions. You're okay. They don't hurt you. Marijuana and mushrooms and things like that, the natural things that people have been doing for tens of thousands of years, those things aren't hurting anybody, man. And they can't get into your system, you know. And if you lump them in with oxycodones and fucking heroin and crystal meth, that's ridiculous. No one is becoming a more introspective, fascinating person on crystal meth. They're becoming fucking crazy. It's like we have to like look at drugs in terms of what they do to the people that take them, and the things that do positive things. You can't ignore that just because they're a drug. You're not allowed to just say, oh, because it's an illegal drug, then all the benefits that people talk about it, those don't count. They're invalid. Just because it's not sanctioned by a group of fucking criminals. That's ridiculous. It doesn't make any sense at all. And, you know, I've lived my whole life like this. I mean, it's 2010. I would have thought by now we would have come to some sort of a rational understanding as human beings. As we got to be adults, I thought we would come to a point where we would sit back and we would look at things and go, what right do I to tell another person what to do or not to do, as long as he's not trying to give it to minors or people that don't know any better. As long as people are educated, let's spend money on programs and make sure that people don't get involved in anything fucked up like this. And let's pay attention to fucking children in schools. I mean, the biggest problem in this country isn't laws and crime. The biggest problem is, why are people creating crime? Why are people doing these terrible things to each other? I mean, 99.99% of all fucked up things come out of a fucked up childhood. You have kids who have either shitty fucking parents, and these fucking children, they grow up and they're ticking time bombs. If you have a douchebag, fucked up, drug addict parent, and you live in a fucked up place with no love, and every day you just see violence and shit and screaming and addiction and sorrow, and there's no way out. You don't see shit. You don't do well in school. I mean, what the fuck? You know, that is a ticking time bomb. And for politicians to not address that, and to spend all this fucking time flying over to Afghanistan trying to chase down 100 Taliban fighters in the mountains, and young people are dying over there for that, how about we spend that money attacking the fucking enemy at home? The enemy at home is horrible fucking childhoods that some of our fellow human beings in this country have to go through. You know, what we really need to do is focus on fucking kids. Focus on children that are growing up in terrible neighborhoods. Focus on fucking schools and community centers and giving these kids somewhere to go to when their parents suck. You know, focus on a bunch of people that want to help raise kids that come from terrible situations, or help the parents understand what the fuck they're doing raising children and making these kids fucking psychos and giving them horrible childhoods, you know, and literally setting loose a bomb. Setting loose someone who's eventually going to turn all their inward anger outward on other people. All their pain and resentment and all the negative input coming into them as a child. You know, that shit is fucking terrible. You deal with a child that comes from a positive, loving environment, and you're going to deal with a cool human being. That human being is going to come out of that and going to appreciate other people. That's our number one problem as human beings. Our number one problem as human beings is the way we don't appreciate each other. The way we look at each other as competition. The way we look at each other as just people that are on the highway in my fucking way. Human beings have to learn to appreciate each other. And we need to learn how to deal with the fucking very obvious shit that we ignore. Instead of pretending there's some incredible assault on the human race here in America, maybe we should look on where's the real crime coming from? Where are the real murders coming from? Where's the real anger and violence and the shit that affects day-to-day people every day? It's not in the fucking desert, okay? It's not in the fucking mountains of Afghanistan. It's in cities. It's all over the place. It's children growing up and becoming fucking criminals. That's way scarier to me than some douchebag in Afghanistan. It's nonsense.